They called it heavy. They called it slow. It's the forgotten generation of Mustangs.
Jerry.
What's up, my people, and welcome to the SN95 Power Channel. So today, I want to talk about the 4th generation Mustang, and I want to give this generation Mustang its flowers, finally. After so many years, I think the love and the appreciation for this Mustang is really starting to come around. So let's talk about it. For years, the SN95 lived in the shadows, hated by some, ignored by most. But lately, that's all starting to change. Today we take a look at why this generation got so much hate and why enthusiasts are finally starting to see this generation Mustang for what it really is, and that's one of the best generation Mustangs Ford ever built. When the SN95 launched in 1994, it had some pretty big shoes to fill. The Foxbody was the king of the pony car performance over a decade. Lightweight, simple, and fast. Ford wanted something new, a more refined Mustang with better handling, better comfort, and a modern design. But that refinement came with a price: more weight and a softer feel. To many die-hard Foxbody fans, that was unforgivable. The Mustang had grown up, but not everyone liked the direction. Then came the performance criticism. The 5.0 liter was carried over from the Foxbody, same block, same power. 215 horsepower might seem decent in 1987, but by the time the mid-90s came, it was really outdated. So if you were around in that time, you know the struggle that these cars had with a Pontiac GTP. Even the mighty Cobra with GT40 heads, I did say GT40, with GT40 heads, a GT40 intake, it just couldn't shake the underpowered reputation. And when the 4.6 liter modular V8 replaced the 5.0, things didn't get any better. Less torque, less sound, and less excitement. For many fans, this was the breaking point. The SN95 became the Mustang everybody loved to hate. In 1999, Ford rolled out the new Edge design. A sharper, more edgier, and a bit faster. Overnight, the 94 through 98 cars looked outdated. They weren't old enough to be classics, but not new enough to stand out. They instantly became the middle child of the Mustang family. Cheap, overlooked, and for many years, completely forgotten. But time changes everything, and as the years went by, builders started to realize these cars had potential, real potential. The SN95 chassis was stronger than the Foxbody. The suspension geometry was better. What used to be that cheap 90s Mustang became one of the most capable platforms Ford ever made. And the community really started paying attention. Today, the early SN95s are everywhere. You see them restored, swapped, boosted, and all over YouTube. What used to be a punchline has become a cult classic. And that's because people finally realized the SN95 was really never bad. It was mistaken. It had style, it had balance, and an unmistakable 90s characteristic that these newer cars will never have. It might have taken 3 decades, but the early SN95 time is finally here. No longer the forgotten Mustang, it's one of the best generation Mustangs Ford ever built. These cars represent creativity, individuality, and the underdog spirit that defines true car culture. And this is why the SN95 Mustang will always have a place in the Mustang legacy. So I can say over the years, throughout going to some of these national car shows, you are really starting to see the presence of 94 through 98 Mustangs. And it's a bunch of different reasons why. I can remember, and this is how crazy it was, when the market was bottom for these cars. I remember seeing 95 Cobra R's for $30,000. I remember seeing 94, 95 Cobras for $3,000, not clapped out either. Just, a mid mileage Cobra, but people just weren't into them. Even like the 96, the Beathead Cobras. At one point in time, those things were like really dirt cheap, $4,500. But now you're seeing those prices steadily climb and climb and climb. So one of the big reasons why these cars are starting to trend more is nostalgia. A lot of people who grew up with these cars in the 90s are professionals now. They have a little disposable income. And so kind of like with the Foxbody boom, where you had those people who grew up with those Foxbodies in the 80s, they had professional careers or got professional careers, and now they're able to spend money on those Foxbodies. And, they are hedge fund managers and are able to spend $50,000, $60,000 on like a shit box. But, with these fourth generation Mustangs, even including the new Edges have always been a little bit more desirable, and they have always been a little bit more pricier. And, the 94 through 98s have kind of like sagged behind, but you're starting to see a different trend on that. And I just think a lot has to do, like I said, with nostalgia. But the other thing is, the price point. As far as like a V8 American muscle car, at one point in time, it's probably the best bang for the buck. And, people are starting to, I don't want to say flood the market, but, people are starting to buy these cars. And now you're seeing like a supply and demand issue where, for some of the cleaner, nicer SN95s, those things are fetching some pretty good money. You can check the price history on Bring a Trailer on some real low mileage SN95s. 10 years ago, those things weren't really fetching any kind of money. Fast forward to now, you're gonna pay, for a real clean one, around $10,000 on, Bring a Trailer for a really clean SN95. And that just wasn't the case, 10 years ago. Real clean, low mileage SN95, $6,000, $7,000 was kind of like pushing the high end mark of those cars. But yeah, I think now these cars are really getting their due. And a lot of it too is just because you have some really great builds out here. You go to some of these shows, Mustang Week, Ponies in the Smokies. They don't have Fabulous Fours forever anymore, but with these shows, you see some really nice examples of these 94 through 98s, and people are catching the eye. And I've always felt that depending on how you mod it and your taste, you can make these look just as good as any other year Mustang that's out there. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'll put my build up against anybody else's build, Foxbody, whatever generation, and feel pretty comfortable. I don't think it's the best car out here, but it's definitely not overlooked anymore. So give me y'all opinion on this. Do you think like these 94 through 98s are getting their due right now? As far as YouTube videos, you're starting to see more of this content for these 94 through 98s on YouTube. Just do a search and you'll see, go back 10 years ago or even 6 years ago. I can think of, constant like YouTubers posting 94 through 98 content. God, my man Patrick, there's a couple of other people, but yeah, it wasn't that many. So they're definitely getting their day. So if you're considering buying one of these, now's a good time to get it because the market is just going to go up higher. If you are considering buying a 94, 95 Cobra, grab that right now because that market is going to skyrocket soon, in my opinion. I'm not a futures trader or anything like that, but you can see the trend. You don't have that many of those 94, 95s. It's the last push rod, and those are definitely going to be a kind of a collector car at one point in time. So that's my opinion on it. I would love to hear y'all opinion on it. So leave a comment down below. Tell me what y'all think. I love this generation, but I love this body style even more. So appreciate y'all rocking with me on this video. Until next time, God bless.